Good evening. Welcome to Recovering Perfectionist Mama, Grace in Progress. My name is Buffy. I'm a women's lifestyle creator on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, covering topics that concern women. Today, we're talking about why do we project perfectionism onto our kids without realizing it? Unlearning the legacy. Why do so many parents swear they'll never repeat the past and then catch themselves panicking over grades, milestones, sports, behavior, or performance? Why does it feel personal when our child struggles, even when we know logically that it shouldn't? If you've ever felt that knot in your chest when your child fell behind, didn't excel, or didn't meet an unspoken standard, this video isn't about shame. It's about awareness, because perfectionism doesn't usually show up as pressure. It shows up as anxiety disguised as care. Naming the inherited script. Many of us grew up in environments where love wasn't unsafe, but it was conditional, meaning it mattered whether or not we succeeded. It mattered whether or not we had good grades. It mattered whether we were doing what was expected of us. It wasn't necessarily spoken intentionally, and it was not always spoken, but felt. Because we got the assignment, right? We understood the assignment. We knew what was required of us, that we be quiet, that we not get in trouble, that we get good grades, that we're agreeable, that we do what needs to be done to assist the adults in our lives when we can, that we not be too difficult. We learned implicitly that achievement brought approval. The mistakes brought tension. It brought issues between us and our family unit at certain points. That emotions were inconvenient. That if someone asked you how you felt and you were honest, that sometimes that did not sit well with that particular adult because they did not want to understand or know your full feelings. And being easy made things smoother, right? If you did what you were told and you sat down and you shut up, things went a lot easier. So we adapted. That's where perfectionism comes in. It's a coping mechanism. It's a coping mechanism to avoid trouble, to avoid conflict, to be a people pleaser, to try to make people happy, because we learned that people like it when you do the things that they like. That you're calm, that you're complimentary, that you don't make waves, right? You don't cause conflict. And to this day, I still have a hard issue with conflict, right? I know it's funny because I'm an attorney, right? I know that. But it's still there. It's like the unspoken thing of me getting really uncomfortable when I have to potentially get into a confrontation. And I tend to not get into confrontations because I don't like drama. I don't like confrontation. It just, probably because in certain areas of my life, when I had confrontations and I had to literally stand up for myself, I would often back down, or I would often try to kind of backpedal so that I didn't have to upset someone. And I don't know how many of you have done that as well. I'm sure many of you have, if you have an issue with confrontation, like I myself do at times. So we adapted, right? We became responsible, high functioning, and self-monitoring, right? We knew what we had to do. We studied on our own, likely. We were high achieving on our own because we knew that meant that people would be proud of us. They'd be happy. They wouldn't have to worry about us. And those adaptations didn't disappear when we became parents. They just changed targets. Instead of asking, am I good enough? We start asking, are they okay? Are they behind? Am I missing something? Am I a good mother? Am I a terrible mother? Am I damaging my children? You wonder all of these things. That's not control. That's fear, inherited and unexamined. How perfectionism sneaks into parenting. Perfectionism really sounds like yelling or demanding excellence. It sounds like I just want them to have every opportunity. I don't want them to struggle like I did. I'm worried they'll fall behind. I know they can do better. These thoughts feel loving because they are loving. But underneath them is often a belief that we never consented to. If my child struggles, I have failed. That puts an impossible burden on both parent and child. 3 ways I actively interrupt this pattern. I respond to effort before outcome. If I see that my children are doing everything that they can and they're putting in the effort, I'm going to be proud of them, right? Not everyone is going to have to be perfect, right? I know that perfectionism is a trap, just like many of you probably do. It's a coping mechanism. It's a way to avoid maybe getting into conflict. It's a way to avoid arousing suspicion or, being at somebody's ire or having them upset with you, right? That's what that became. And it became a way to make your family happy, right? Because you weren't trouble. You did what you're told. You weren't rebellious. You said yes, and you did what they told you to do. Sometimes you may have backtalked and you got in trouble for that. But ultimately, you towed the line and did what you were told to do. And they loved that, right? So the whole responding to effort, that sounds simple, but it can be surprisingly hard, right? Especially with all of us that have the perfectionistic quality, right? Those of us who truly thought that it was possible to be perfect and to not run afoul of anyone. Spoiler alert, it's not, is it? It's not that easy. And perfectionism, she is a jealous, hateful mistress because she will remind you in the middle of the night what you've forgotten, where you failed, what goals you failed to keep. She will also tell you and make you think that you can actually accomplish 20 things in one day. I'll tell you right now, I at one point believed that I could. However, I failed miserably because that is an impossible standard. Why do we set ourselves up for failure? Do you ever wonder that? Like, why am I setting myself up for failure? Like, this is clearly not a fun game. Let's try to scale back some. And then you hear that voice I'm sure you could do it if you tried harder. Yeah, maybe if I start doing stuff 12 to 16 hours a day, I'm sure I could hit 20 items, right? Depending on how involved they are, right? So when a child shows you a grade, a performance, or a result, your nervous system reacts before your values do. So I intentionally slow myself down and say things like, tell me what part was hardest. What did you learn about yourself? Because ultimately that's important. They need to learn who they are, what their values are, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. And if you guys are like me, I know most of you probably can relate with this. I can tell you my strengths. I can also tell you my weaknesses in an honest, realistic fashion, right? Because I know what my weaknesses are, and I know probably most of you do as well. Now, do you want to announce them to the world? Probably not. Nor do I, but I'm just saying I'm able to do that. And then also offer encouragement. I'm proud of how you stuck with it, even though it was difficult, even though this part was difficult for you. Not because outcomes matter, but because effort builds resilience, and resilience outlasts achievements. They learn from their resilience. They flex that resilience muscle and it gets stronger. And resilience isn't easy to come by, right? But as they keep working on it and flexing it, it's going to get stronger, and that's awesome. I externalize my self-talk instead of hiding it. Many of us were raised watching adults silently panic, judge themselves, or spiral internally. So now, instead of hiding frustration, I model it without shame. So you know what? I'm really frustrated right now. I don't know what is exactly triggering me at this point, but I do know that I'm just frustrated because I'm overwhelmed. I've got a lot on my plate. And to be honest with you, it's not easy at times to kind of deal with this. And it makes it normal for them to be able to come to you and say, look, I'm struggling with, being upset about, whatever it is. And I need some help navigating through that. And that, as parents, is where we can shine. We can continue to build upon our relationship with our children, build trust, show them that what they're feeling is normal, because a lot of the feelings are big feelings, right? Sometimes we have trouble with dealing with the big feelings. Why wouldn't they as children, right? And it's like, I'm disappointed, but that doesn't mean I failed. I'm frustrated, but I can still be kind to myself. This didn't go as how I hoped. And that's okay, because not everything is going to go as we think it should go. Kids learn more how we handle imperfection than how we avoid it. I separate my worth from their trajectory. This is one of the hardest and the most freeing. My child's success does not validate me. I did nothing to earn their success. My oldest son is really great at basketball, right? Really good at basketball. Now, I played basketball with family when I was a child. Was I good? Not really by any stretch of the imagination. I could shoot free throws. That's about it. But my child's struggle also does not invalidate me or indict me as a terrible parent, right? Because ultimately, we can't intermesh ourselves with our children, their successes and their failures, right? Because they are their own people. They will make their own decisions, right? They're their own independent entity. When we confuse identity with outcome, we unintentionally recruit our kids into carrying our own unresolved fears, right? Fears of failure, all the fears that we've carried. Have you ever heard the Mike and the Mechanic song? I know that I'm a prisoner to all my father's hopes and fears. I only wish that I had told him in the living years. And I think about that, and I just think, and then he talks about, I think I heard my father in my newborn baby's cry. And you think about that and you're like, you know what? I do feel like ultimately we are carrying generations back of our parents and our relatives' hopes and fears. And that can weigh heavily on us. I think that's a lot of the generational curse and the issue with trying to avoid patterns, especially if there's been some really negative things in your family's history, like abuse and things like that. And so it almost feels kind of heavy trying to deal with that. Letting go of that doesn't mean disengaging. It means parenting from presence instead of pressure. And if there's one thing that we need less of, it's pressure, right? We need to be enjoying things because, we only have them for so long. And being able to, give them love and give them encouragement and set them on a right path to teach them things that you wish that you had been taught. That's powerful. Like, that's life-changing potentially. How wonderful to be able to do something like that. Why this is so hard to unlearn. Unlearning perfectionism often feels like irresponsibility at first. Sorry for that stumble, guys. Because calm can feel unfamiliar. Because you're used to being stressed. You're used to being like, go, 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 go. You're used to like putting unreasonable expectations on yourself and knowing that you have the ability to carry them. Now, whether or not you choose to carry them, that's also up to you, right? Because some of the things that we're trying to make ourselves carry are pie in the sky, right? Nobody's going to be perfect, right? Nobody. But what we're really unlearning is the idea that love must be earned through performance. And that is something that subconsciously entered our heads, which is why we're perfectionists, right? We want to earn love. We want others to love us. We don't want to be outside of the circle, right? We're just like everyone else. We're looking for community. We're looking for people who will recognize who we are and appreciate us for who we are, right? Not what we can do for them, but who the essence of who we are, and want to maybe be in a community with us or a village with us or get to know us, right? Instead of what we can offer them, what we can do for them. And that takes time to finally get past that hurdle. Time and work, as you know. You won't get it right every day, and that's okay. You'll catch yourself mid-reaction. Hey, you caught it, right? Good for you, right? You'll repair after. That is the work. Let's talk about a gentle reframe for parents. Your child doesn't need you to be flawless. They don't need you to be perfect. They don't need you to be everything that they need in the world. No. They need you to be emotionally available. They need to know mistakes are survivable. Effort matters. Rest is allowed. How many of you feel uncomfortable with rest? You feel like you're laxing. You feel like you're lazy. You feel like you need to be doing something. Because sometimes rest feels uncomfortable. Any of you relate with that? And love is not revoked when things go sideways. Meaning, if you're not perfect, if you're not always happy, if you're not always getting great grades, guess what? You're human, right? I love you no matter what. There is nothing you can do. And I say this to my kids a lot. There is nothing you can do that is going to make me stop loving you. You are my child. You are a part of me. And that's that. You don't have to earn my love. You don't have to earn my respect. You are fine just the way you are. Do your best. Be a good human. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Be honest. Be polite. Have manners. Right? Be empathetic. Be a person of the world, right? Like try to make others feel comfortable. Try to be a good person. A person that treats others with respect and kindness. Because bullies, have my fair share of bullies. Not a fan of them at all. So that's just my personal input there. Breaking cycles isn't loud. It's quiet. It's daily. And it's imperfect. And that's enough. Because we're all imperfect in some way. We're a little rough around the edges. We're quirky and awkward like I am, right? Hey, I own it. I own it. I sometimes say strange things sometimes and, but hey, that's who I am. So if you were to see me on the street, I'm the same way on camera as I am out in public. And sometimes I feel my husband kind of go, oh, did you really say that out loud? Yes, honey, I really said that out loud. and then literally like later in the middle of the night, I'm like, did I really say that out loud? Oh, yeah, I did. Hopefully they knew that I'm just quirky and weird. What do you say? Awkward. So in closing, unlearning perfectionism doesn't mean rejecting your parents. It means choosing something different for your children and for yourself. And that's okay. You're able to choose a different path. You don't have to follow the exact path that you were raised in, right? You know better, so you do better, right? Maybe they didn't know as much as you know about certain things. And so when we know better, we do better, right? And that choice, repeated over time, becomes a legacy of its own. And I just want to go into a full circle moment with you all real quick, briefly. For those of you that have been following me from pretty close to the very beginning, I talked about a community. We have a great community. And I just want to say thank you to all of you again, because the support you guys offer each other is fantastic. And there are a lot of very kind people in this group and in this community. And I appreciate every single one of you. But remember when I was talking about building the community, that's what I wanted, and building a legacy. Here we are coming full circle, talking about breaking cycles, talking about perfectionism and knowing better and doing better and our community, and then building a legacy for our children to look back on and keep passing down and getting better as they go. So again, thank you so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the Super Bowl, whichever side you may fall on. And not really a football person, so I don't really have an opinion. But anyway, I just want to say thank you so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. And hopefully you'll come back and see us again at Recovering Perfectionist Mama, Grace in Progress. Thanks so much, guys. Bye-bye.